What the fuck?
Mamma mia!
This is why Miyamoto stopped letting intelligence systems do this. Miyamoto was right. The Paper Mario series is one of the most tragic cases of franchise mishandling in Nintendo's history. A bevy of games once beloved for their iconic and distinct spin on the RPG genre in the Mario universe somehow devolved into by-the-numbers and shallow RPGs with a Mario coat of paint splattered on its exterior. It was like Nintendo traded in the name brand Paper Mario for the store brand overnight, and the charm and depth that the series was once lauded for was snatched and replaced with a facade, almost a parody of what it once was. Originally, this video was, in part, going to be a retrospective on the decline of the Paper Mario series, but after writing my thoughts down on the first 3 games, I realized I had a lot to say. So much to say that they could probably constitute their own individual videos. Regardless, to understand the place this game holds in the Paper Mario series and why it represents a major sea change, some context is needed, and that context is unfortunately in the 2 titles that marked a major decline in the Paper Mario series for many. Sticker Star was a menial and degrading experience, plain and simple. It was extra insulting coming off the heels of the rather ambitious Super Paper Mario. Gone was any of the personality and identity of the previous entries. No unique locales, no new character designs or named NPCs period. I hope you like generic toads because that's all that's here. Sticker Star just sucked all of the life from this series and replaced it with the most basic and standard Mario tropes. The plot mimicked every basic Mario plot with yet another Bowser steals Peach tale that had no twist to it aside from the sticker aesthetic surrounding the game. All of the areas were recycles of the same motifs of Mario's past. Forest level? Check. Desert level? Check. Snow and underground? Yep. And it's not that these area designs in and of themselves are bad. Previous entries show that if locales like these were portrayed with a distinct spin or creative design idea, they could be done well. The problem lies in how these areas lack any personality. They feel like they could have just been ripped out of any Mario game. That's the problem with Sticker Star. It felt like Intelligent Systems just took the new Super Mario series and slapped a Paper Mario logo on top and called it Paper Mario. It sucked all of the life out of a series that was once beloved for its distinct and charming characters and original new takes on the Mario franchise. The most insulting thing about Sticker Star is easily its combat system. Whereas entries in the series up until this point had combat systems with some sense of depth, progression, and intricacy, Sticker Star removed all incentive for battle or gameplay, period. This entry returns to the turn-based style of the first 2 games, but with a few major caveats. Gone is the ability to equip permanent items. Gone is the badge system. Gone are flower points or any manageable mana stat. Gone is the experience and leveling system. Instead, all of these are replaced with the fleeting and horribly designed sticker system. Here you collect various stickers in the areas with limited inventory space. Once you use a sticker, it's gone forever. You can also choose to buy stickers, but the game hands them out to you like they're nothing, so there's never any need. The thing that makes the system horrid is how it actively punishes you for partaking in optional battles. With no sense of leveling or progression, all battles are designed to do is waste resources and time. If you use all of your good stickers or overpowered thing items on basic enemies, you'll leave yourself vulnerable for boss fights where they actually matter and where they're needed. Sure, you could go around and spend time collecting new stickers after you partake in fights, but what purpose does it serve when battles really get you nowhere to begin with? All this new combat system does is incentivize the player to avoid battles and combat, and when players want to outright just avoid your main crux of gameplay, your game has failed. The issue with Sticker Star was never that it lacked any partners, or the old combat system, or an engaging story that gripped the player. The issue was that nothing was put in its place to substitute those things and make for a meaningful experience. Fans were itching for Paper Mario to return to its turn-based stylings after Super Paper Mario on the Wii, and what Nintendo gave us was a shallow veneer of what we expected. A game that at its core sought to offer what the fans desired, hard, but the devil's in the details, and unfortunately there are none in Sticker Star. Paper Mario Color Splash holds your hand throughout nearly all of the experience. So much of the game's combat, exploration, and puzzles are padded to a degree that they only serve to become a roadblock to the player's progression through the one thing that the game actually does right. It's writing. The meme levels in this entry are off the charts, and there's just a level of charm and identity in how the game presents its world and writing that Sticker Star just lacked. I won't call it the best written game in the series, but it has some of the most entertaining localization and tongue-in-cheek humor in a Nintendo game to date. I think it hinges a little too hard on its quirky humor instead of actually substantive writing, but I think that's fine. Not every story has to have a complex narrative and characters with intense social dynamics and struggles. Sometimes you just need to make some jokes with your pals. The combat in this entry is an extension of the combat in Sticker Star, which is already a red flag. Inflated health pools and an overabundance of coin destroy any semblance of challenge in this title. The game drowns you in item cards to the point where they essentially lose all sense of worth, and the tiny amount of incentive you actually do get for completing battles, increased paint carrying capacity, barely matters because the base amount of paint you can carry will already do fine enough. And paint is everywhere anyway, so increased capacity really doesn't matter. There are so many glaring holes in Color Splash's design that it's easy to see all of the flack and criticism the game received upon its conception. The game does nothing to actually rectify the issues that plague Sticker Star, and instead slaps a band-aid over the scar. The combat lacks any sense or semblance of strategy. Resources are so plentiful that their value becomes meaningless. It contains another bog standard plot about Bowser trying to steal Princess Peach, only with a paint gimmick this time. Plus, and this is an issue that plagues both Color Splash and Sticker Star, there are no unique NPCs to be found here. Instead, it's nothing but toads. Toads as far as the eye can see. They aren't even named toads, or toads with unique designs or real personalities. They're just Toad. I've never hated staring at this fungus more than I have after playing Color Splash. The biggest complaint about Color Splash's combat, which is why I can't even to this day beat this game, lies in its inane implementation of the gamepad and how long it draws out even the simplest battles for no reason. Alright guys, I'm about to show you in the most jank way possible why Paper Mario Color Splash has the worst battle system of the entire series, okay? So, keep in mind, look at all of these item cards I have. So, the idea is, alright, I have jump, yep. There's 3 Goombas on the screen, 3. So I have jump here. Maybe we'll switch them out, right? Maybe we'll do this one, and maybe we'll do this one here. So, you have the cards ready, right? They're good to go. You line them up here on the screen, and then you have to hold down the button and touch to paint them. When you're done painting, you press the done painting button, and then you gotta flick them up, right? And then you get to doing the actual fight. Right, so we got cards ready. Okay, so we manually paint each card, right? Each one. Manually paint it. You flick them up. You do the action commands. You see how lengthy this process is? And you don't get anything for doing it, too. And you know what? That second card that I didn't use? Gone forever. It's gone forever. I mean, the game throws coins and cards at you like there's fucking no tomorrow, so it really doesn't matter. Yeah, it's pretty horrible, because you have no incentive to actually do combat in this game, and then when you get into combat encounters, you're actively punished for it because you lose resources that you would rather use in other scenarios. If you don't plan things out perfectly, and even if you do plan things out perfectly, sometimes you lose resources that you'd rather not lose. And the battles, although that wasn't super long, keep in mind, this process is done many, many times. It's very time consuming, and it's unnecessary. It takes so long just to draw out a card, paint over it, and swipe it up one time. Imagine doing that over and over and over. The time builds up, and it really only serves to make me want to avoid combat even more. Again, if your game's combat exists to only waste the player's time, your game has failed. This is the video game equivalent of your parent dragging you along to the mall for errands. Sure, you occasionally stop and take detours to window shop and stare at places that look nice or interesting, but you never get to do what you want to do. Instead, you're dragged along on a trip where you only assist in the most menial tasks, checking off a list of the most basic cookie-cutter objectives. With how passive and hands-off this game allows you to be, you're only going along for the ride in Color Splash. This game's journey is not yours. It's one you're only a passenger in. In an instant, the things that players had adored about the franchise disappeared, any trace of the past being swept under the rug and ignored as if they were Miyamoto's red-headed stepchildren. These two entries had almost certainly cemented the death of the Paper Mario series for a number of people, burying the spirit of the franchise's past in a ditch so deep that it seemed nearly impossible to salvage. In fact, for many, what the Paper Mario franchise received was a fate worse than death. It was a constant tease of what could be, with the knowledge that it would never be. A series living beyond its prime as bystanders watch it lose everything that got it where it was in the first place. That's why, when a rather credible rumor arose claiming that Paper Mario would be returning to its roots with a new game this year, it seemed like a sick joke only befitting enough for the disaster of a year that is 2020. With how tone-deaf Nintendo and Intelligent Systems had been with the series' past few entries, it seemed very unlikely to see any sort of a return to form, despite the constant fan outcry and obviously ravenous market for it. Then it happened. Paper Mario: The Origami King was announced, and when it was, it showed promise. The initial trailer opened on a stark, eerie, and somber note, reminiscent of the darker and more unsettling tones of the earlier entries in the series. A deformed Origami Peach asks you to crease yourself and join a cult. I'm sorry, is this Paper Mario or Outlast? Even separate from that, there were a number of welcome inclusions that were absent from recent titles in the franchise. A brand new story with a whole new cast. Bowser isn't the main villain here. Distinct area designs, and is Mario traveling with partner characters again? Despite all this promise though, something seemed off. Much like the eerie opening that the initial trailer left us on, there was something that just didn't sit right. Nintendo was hiding one of the most important things from us: the combat. The reason? Well, it seems fairly obvious in retrospect, but it's because it wasn't what people had wanted. The combat system we received was radically different from anything we got before. But did it land? Were the new gameplay styles enough, or were they paper thin? And was the opening note of the first trailer a red herring, or was it a theme the game stuck with? Allow me to delineate the folds and nuances of Paper Mario: The Origami King. The first thing we should address is the first thing Nintendo had presented to us: the tone. The game opens up on that somber, creepy note of the first trailer, giving fans a taste of the type of storytelling that had made the original 3 Paper Mario games special. Is the story that we got the darker, edgier, grittier Paper Mario that we've been yearning for? Does the game keep that consistent note? Hey, I'm walking here! It's an Italian roll of Scotch tape. Compete. No, not at all. This game drops that note faster than me on karaoke night. What the game instead opts for is a similar brand of the eccentric, joke-ridden writing introduced in the last Paper Mario game, only I'd call this more of an extension, perhaps even a major refinement of that style. Color Splash's moments, as jocular as they are, never had moments that landed and stuck. Much of that game leaned on its use of random memes that were often only funny for their shock factor, with most of the jokes being things befitting of my Twitter timeline and not a Mario game. Origami King grips you with actual applications of this type of humor with its own idiosyncrasies that intertwine this humor with a consistent narrative and tongue-in-cheek application. The game's fast travel system is called fax traveling, and Mario will literally fax himself to different locations for
Mamma mia!
sake. I would argue that in some ways this game's approach to writing is even stronger than its beloved predecessors. A lot of personality is strewn about this title. The Paper Mario series lead producer recently came out in an interview and basically confirmed that the team at Intelligent Systems are no longer allowed to make new characters in the Mario universe or modify existing ones. Despite this, Origami King shows you that you don't necessarily need characters with distinct or wholly original designs when your writing of these characters is so good. There are so many moments that make me fall in love with many of the characters you interact with, despite them not having designs that were unique in the slightest, and that's because of what they say and what they do. Take Professor Toad, one of my favorite characters, for example. On the outset, he seems like just another Toad who offers to tag along to help you decipher ancient texts, but his personality makes him a reliable, comedic parody of a millennial who felt like they wasted their college degree and is questioning all of their life decisions, and oh my god, why am I here right now? And in the end, the only thing he ever wanted was to ask the ancients how they took their coffee? I love how self-aware and comical this game is. My personal favorite character is Olivia, whose childlike innocence and inexperience led her to approach even the most mundane things with a sense of mysticism and wonder. She stays within her character as if she's a kid exploring this world for the first time. She lacks a filter and will often say the most blunt and funny things without knowing the impact of her words. She's just a lovable character that interacts with the world that Mario lives in a way that makes me feel like I'm discovering it for the first time. In nearly all instances, despite some glaring moments, Origami King knows that it's a Mario game, a series already known and praised for its lightheartedness and lovable characters. So instead of trying to take itself seriously, it instead flips the notion of why we love these characters on its head by giving us emotional attachment to these characters through their warm-hearted personalities, by making them amiable and whimsical. There were more moments than I could count that got audible chuckles out of me. I don't think I've ever laughed this much playing a Mario game, and these laughs weren't a result of some fleeting slapstick humor. It was a result of the type of witty, subtle writing that has made shows like SpongeBob so charming. It was a result of the writers sneaking in social commentary that only adults would get, while still making its delivery quirky enough for a kid to become delighted with. This is the greatest Nintendo game ever made. I'm acting like a Monty Ball. Alright, it would be disingenuous for me to say that this game doesn't obviously suffer from not being able to have unique character designs and modified characters in the Mario universe. There are two really solid, heavily spoiler-related examples that I will tell you about. So, I am now asking you once again to jump to the timestamp if you do not want to be spoiled about this game's plot. First, the game trying to make you feel bad about the death of a generic Mario character with Bobby sacrificing himself is some of the most ironically comical shit I've ever seen. Like, Mario doesn't dispense these things in other games like they're toothpicks, but it's a kid game, so I'll let it slide. The other is the discovery that the person who created Ollie and Olivia is yet another f***ing Toad. Oh, but this Toad has an apron on, so it's okay. Yeah, it's kind of hard to establish plot-critical characters when they're indistinguishable from generic NPCs. There's an obvious disconnect between the message the game wants to send you with its narrative and character writing, and with the game's character design. Perhaps it's because many of the vanilla characters in the Mario universe, like Bob-ombs and Snippets, lack any complex personality traits in their typical depictions in most Mario titles, but I found this game's approach to its themes and humor to be refreshing. Not every well-written story has to have a dark and solemn undertone to be impactful. This game may not return to the style of writing of the past, but what's in place is something that rivals that in quality and care. In Origami King, it seems like Intelligent Systems took a lot of the criticisms and did what they do best with them. They turned them into memes. Too many coins, you say. Well, here's 10,000 coins in the first world, but Coins become insurmountably more valuable now and are easier to go through than in the past. Use coins to buy time in between turns in battle, accessories that can cost upwards of 5,000 coins, and NPCs constantly ask for coins in order to get progression in the story. There were several moments where I wanted a new accessory and didn't have enough coins despite having tens of thousands of them only moments before. Too many toads? The main side quest in the game revolves around you finding and saving toads, but don't fret, there are a number of unique NPCs and personality-driven characters in the world despite the overabundance of toads. Plus, every time you save the toads, they have something entertaining to say or are thrown into a wacky new scenario that makes them feel like a familiar and consistent factor in the game's ever-changing motifs. Toad has no face, he has no mouth, but he must scream. Combat not strategic enough? Well, combat's now literally a puzzle, with some of these solutions being so brain-busting that I honestly felt stupid trying to solve them. Wait, I won't get murdered. Well, I'm at 12 health, so... It won't work. Oh my god, it killed me? No way, dude, I lost! The combat system is easily the most notable change in this game, and let's get it out of the way first. No, this game is not an RPG. There's no leveling or experience system, no mana, no character customization or defense and agility stats. No, this is more of a puzzle game, but it's a rather distinct one. If there was any game I could draw a comparison to and how it contextualizes gameplay, it would probably be Catherine, where Catherine attempts to blend an asymmetrical puzzle game with a dramatic and twisted dating sim, Paper Mario attempts to blend its grid-based puzzle system with an action-adventure romp through the Mario universe. Much like how your reward for completing mind-bending puzzles in Catherine is the ability to progress in its complex narrative, the reward for engaging in Origami King's combat is spending more time with the charming characters that you can't help but love. Origami King is a puzzle game, and it's a fucking solid one for that matter. Many of the game's boss fights have puzzles that require ingenuity to solve, and nearly all of the overworld puzzles are intuitive and require me to use context clues to progress. The game doesn't give you the answer or a waypoint, and instead asks you to pay attention in order to solve its puzzles. Take the Great Sea for example. The game never outright tells you the locations of its islands, but places these murals with distinct plus-shaped patterns on each one. I quickly realized that this is a waypoint system for the islands. Ever since Breath of the Wild, Nintendo has been really focusing on this hands-off, open-ended approach to puzzle and world design. Instead of giving us objectives, the developers present us with a problem and make us come up with solutions through application of common sense and imagination. That being said, there are a few puzzles that I don't know how they really expected us to solve them. Some straight up just require you to literally hit everything with Mario's hammer in the hopes that you'll hit something hidden. I really don't get why myself, but this is often the exception and not the norm. With this being a puzzle game, there's little to no intrinsic reward for combat. Sure, you get some coins by engaging in battles, but a majority of the coins you do obtain will come from exploring the overworld and interacting with NPCs. But no intrinsic reward is okay when there's some sort of payoff, whether it's the satisfaction of being able to solve a puzzle that has you stumped, or the promise of experiencing another laugh with the cast of characters that you've grown to love. The battles prove themselves to be challenges that you overcome to move forward, and not just pointless and mindless excursions, and that's what makes them a suitable substitute for the battle systems of the past. One of the criticisms I've seen thrown around in regard to this battle system lies in that fights with generic enemies aren't challenging or intense puzzles. Let me present to you a retort. They don't have to be, and in fact they've never been. I don't know why people hold RPG battle systems to this high pedestal, but even in some of the best Paper Mario games, fights against Goombas, Koopas, and the like were never hard, and only proved to be basic roadblocks or a means of grinding for experience points. Fights against these same mobs nearly serve the exact same purpose. Minor roadblocks that offer slight progression with coins. Saying otherwise is really just arguing semantics. To me, it's all about how Origami King's combat fares in its most tense and defining moments, and in those moments they become suitable mental exercises that get my endorphins flowing. By addressing all of these complaints and issues in this fashion, intelligent systems prove proved that these issues weren't as simple as there being too many coins or the combat just being different. It was how they designed and implemented these things in the past that made them shallow and dull. Having too many coins is only a problem if they begin to lose their value. Combat being different only hurts the game if it's mind-numbing and disengaging. Too many toads only becomes a problem if all the toads act the same. In regards to aesthetics, this is easily one of the best looking games on the Switch, no doubt. But you don't need me to tell you that, you've been looking at it. And that's not even that it's graphically intensive or it performs optimally. The game just radiates this colorful, vibrant, and lively art direction and amazing use of the paper theme. From florid meadows to gaudy desert towns, the game offers nothing short of visual eye candy to the player at every turn. Also, some of the music here, absolute bangers, my guys. That event battle theme though, Alright, so I've been playing Devil's Advocate for nearly all of this video, and despite my positive outlook on the game, there are a number of things that really held this game down and made it rather inconsistent. The game loses focus more often than an ADD kid in math class. Origami King will constantly engage the player with numerous tiny genre-changing aberrations. Instead of sharpening its core puzzle-solving gameplay, this title chooses to veer into gameplay styles designed to create some variation in gameplay, but comes off as unfocused detours. You have fishing minigames, motion-controlled submarine diving, janky overworld combat with these paper macho monsters. The game turns into Wind Waker for an entire area. There are even Simon Says and Pokemon strength block pushing puzzles? What? One of the things I liked about this game was how it was an interconnected and sandbox world that facilitated exploration and made it feel like a place that was lived in. A far cry from the level select system that segmented areas in Color Splash and Sticker Star. But the game does suffer from how much open and empty expanse of land there is. It felt like the game was really padding out time in certain moments, and I felt there were large expanses of time where I wasn't doing much aside from traveling around an open area, going to what my next objective should be. The amount of dead air in certain moments really bogged down some areas that I loved the aesthetic and stories of, up until the point I got to exploring them, and that was a tough pill to swallow. While I thought the new item degradation system was much better than the horribly disposable sticker and card system in the last few games, making things like iron boots and shiny hammers break with use really wasn't necessary with how easy to obtain and buy they are. I never felt like I was in danger of running out of more powerful versions of the hammers and boots I had gotten, and whenever they did break, it only really felt like a minor nuisance to go back to my menu to equip a new one. They honestly should have just been permanent upgrades or modifications to your weapons instead of perishable items, since they were never scarce or expensive to purchase. With all this in mind, it's rather obvious that Paper Mario the Origami King is anything but a return to form for the series. While some aspects of the game, like its charming writing and interconnected world, encapsulate the spirit of the original Paper Mario titles, the game creates its own identity and presents players with a new experience that still retains a sense of depth and complexity that vies with what made the original games beloved to begin with. The result is a game that may not be what fans want, but might be what the Paper Mario series needs. New life, a new approach, a new experience, and a change of pace. But a change is as good as a rest, and maybe that's what the Paper Mario franchise needs now. Some time to recuperate and rediscover its identity. Thank you for watching me ramble on about this video game today. If you're new to the channel, all I could really ask is that you consider subscribing to stay updated with more reviews, critiques, and overviews of games that I have coming out in the future. If there's anything you want to see me cover, anything you're interested in hearing my opinion about, please let me know in the comments and I'll try to get to it. In any case, thanks for sticking through. I will see you guys in the next one.